All right, all right. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And now we're going to go live on Instagram. Coach Connie, let me push the go live button. Awesome. We are live on Instagram. Well, welcome in, disruptors. We are having the coaching conversation today with Coach Connie of Just Shift. I love
Mhm.
saying that. Just Shift. I can't wait to dive in and talk about that a little bit more. I am your host, Coach Selina, aka DisruptHer Coach. And I am called to serve Christian women that have cut ties from narcissistic relationships and are struggling with who they are. I help you know your power and your divine identity so that you can have more energy, strength, capacity to live a purposeful life on your own terms. Today with me is our parenting coach, Coach Connie. She is in another one of my coaching circles, and I put the call out and she said yes. So we're so grateful that she showed up here with us today. And we're going to have a wonderful conversation because, parenting is always a great topic. The Lord has given us these little people to bring forth into the world. And so there is no rule book that comes with them at all. We're also going to talk about breaking generational bondage in parenting and raising empowered adults. So, Coach Connie, thank you for being here.
Thank you
I
for
want
having
to
me.
ask, oh, it is an honor. It is an honor. I want to ask, I typically start off with asking, how do you show up in the world?
I show up as an individual who is focused on creating justice centered spaces. Um, I am a lifelong educator. I am a social justice advocate. I am a mentor. I am an author. And in all of those arenas, in addition, coaching in all of those arenas, justice, fairness, equity, those are kind of like my guiding principles. And so it's very important to me that the spaces that I engage in, that I create, are have justice as the center.
Ashe. I love that. And it got real in here. You showed up just like that. Like I did not come to play. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Well, let me just get into it then. What what brought you here? What brought you to show up for justice in these spaces?
So it kind of depends on which arena you're talking about. I would say on one hand it depends, and on the other hand it doesn't. In terms of parental parental and child rearing, and how I
Mm-hmm.
became a parental coach and the justice in that sense. From working with families for 33 plus years as an educator, as a mentor, um, it became important to me to make sure that all the entities that work together to service children, home, school,
Mm-hmm.
and community work in tandem, respect the space of the other, but also that the child is not forgotten in the process. And
Yeah.
so for the past 33 plus years, it has been my mission as a school leader when I was in the classroom. Now that I am a school leader, it is essential, it is critical, it is a non negotiable that scholars feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated. And so that carries over into my parental coaching, because I feel that a lot of the societal issues that we experience from young people could be reduced, if not eliminated, if the relationships were better in the homes.
Mm, mm. That's real talk. Real talk. Woo! You said a whole mouthful.
And you have
What?
to stop me because I can talk. So, especially when it comes to justice and parenting and children and education. So, you may have to rein me in. It's okay.
Well, it's a conversation, and it's designed for you to talk. And I'm of the
Okay.
mind, I am totally led by the Spirit. So if the Spirit moves you to have some things to say, I'm ready to hear them. Absolutely. This platform is for you to share what these parents need to hear. So absolutely, let's get at it. Ain't nobody scared over here. Um, so, what does authentic parenting mean, and how can parents maintain authenticity in their parenting style?
So, it's important for parents to, one, identify that for themselves. Authenticity in the space of security, safety, and care, of course. We don't mean to be authentic. I want to hang out. I want to hang out in the club all night because that's the kind of parent I am. That leaves your child open to risk. So when I say authenticity, I mean really thinking about
Hmm.
the things that you hold dear, the things that are important to you that you may not have received when you were growing up, the things that
Hmm.
are necessary for your happiness and your healthiness and your happiness as a parent. Because I feel that a lot of instances parents are stressed out because they're very busy performing.
Hmm.
They are very busy being trying to be the parent that someone else thinks that they should be. And so you are in performance mode and you feel as though you are on stage and you're feeling judged. And it's important that as parents, we are empowered to be our authentic selves as long as obviously our children are healthy and loved, right? It's important. And
Hmm.
there's a story that comes with that. I'm sure later on in our conversation, I'm sure we'll peel back the layers, but it's definitely experiential and not all learned. That authentic parenting is what I support parents in finding for themselves.
Ashe, ashe. Because there's definitely no rule book.
Exactly.
I know that in a household, if you have more than one child, then
Mhm.
there are different personalities. Each child is not the same. Um, any wisdom to share around that with the authentic parenting, and that you have different personalities at play with your children.
So I'll speak from experience. I am the mother of twin boys. So, especially when you're speaking about multiple children with twins, it's very difficult for society to see them as individual people. Um, and
Hmm.
sometimes parents fall victim to, I mean, even, myself, I say the boys, the twins. So
Hmm.
it is critical that you build relationships that are singular to the individual child and not just a unit, the children. And so, what I do, so you said any advice in that arena, making sure that you understand what your child's love language is. So, for one of my sons, emotional connection is his love language. I love you, son.
Mm.
Come give me a hug. You are amazing. That type of mothering, that is his love language. That is his jam. That is what lets him
Hmm.
know that I see him, value him, and appreciate him. My other son, we used to call him the robot because he was so logical, analytical. It's right or wrong. You can't sway me with the mother guilt. It does it make sense or does it not make sense? I'm not doing this
Right.
just because your mom, right? Does it make sense? So with him connecting over his intellectual prowess, having logical conversations with him where we can discuss and debate an issue, hearing him out and making sure that he understands that I see and respect his mind and the way his mind works.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a different type of love. And ultimately we all still, we act silly together, we do the things, the family things, but you have to make sure that I'm giving one son what he needs over here and the other son what he needs over there. And when your children are smaller, that can, because I'm speaking about my children, they're 24, but when your children are younger, that can look like taking one weekend or one day a month, and it's child
Yeah.
A's day. You get to pick what it is we do. You get to pick where it is we go. And child
Mm-hmm.
B, um, either child B is along for the ride, or maybe child B is with the other parent or a relative. And then the next month or the next week is child B's time. So giving each child, or if you have more than two, giving every child an opportunity to feel like they are the center of your world, because you don't
I
want
love
to
that.
raise children that feel like they are living in another child's shadow. Absolutely. Yes, conscious parenting. You also have to make sure that you don't set up resentment within your family space, because one child may feel,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you love this child more because he's more academically inclined, right? Or the academic child,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you love this child more because you can connect with this child more emotionally. You really, it's a balance, it's a pivot, but as the parent, that's your responsibility. And so the problem comes in that many of us didn't receive that growing up. And so instead of saying, hey, I didn't receive this growing up, but I know it's what is needed, we sometimes fall back on, well, I didn't get that. So I didn't get that. Now I turned out all right. So you don't have to get it. Or
Mm.
I can't disrespect my parent. I can't show out my parent by doing something different, because if I do something different than what I experienced as a child, what am I saying about my parent? And so
Mm.
on that note, on that note, my father raised me. My mother was in
Mm-hmm.
the home, but she had mental health struggles. So my dad was the primary caregiver. And my dad was older.
Mm.
My dad was born in 1917. So he was born at the end of World War One. So set your mind on that. So by the time I was born, he
Right.
was 50. And at that time, he was like a grandparent, right? And so someone coming up during the Great
Mm-hmm.
Depression, they felt like they were demonstrating love by taking care of you. I love you because I keep a roof over your head.
Yeah.
I love you because I feed you. I love you because I clothe you. He was not demonstrative with affection, right? When I made him
Mm-hmm.
proud,
Mm-hmm.
he let me know, but he was not telling me I love you all over the place, right? That had an impact on
Absolutely.
me. That had an impact on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so growing up, as I grew up, and once I became a parent, I made the conscious decision that I love and revere my father. My father's my hero. He's my everything. But I acknowledge that there were some things that I cannot repeat the cycle of when I go
Right.
into parenting. And so I tell my children I love them all the time. And we're so comfortable with it, they don't shy away from it. It's nothing for them
Absolutely.
to tell me that they love me and it doesn't matter who's around. It's none of that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, mom, none of that, because it just is. And so that's the
Yes, it is.
making those conscious decisions to understand that it's okay to do something differently than what you experienced is very
Absolutely.
important. It's very important. And parents need support in understanding that.
This makes me reflect on my own parenting journey. I too have a son, and I only had one. That was all I could give. That was all. I was like, Lord, this is all I got. I done paid this debt. That's all I got, Lord. And I was so grateful it was a boy because I don't think I would have made it if I had a girl. And
Mm-hmm.
I did the same thing too, right? We would tell each other we love each other 50 times a day. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted him to know who he was and be solid in that before he went out into the world, period, especially
Mm-hmm.
as a young Black man.
Mm-hmm.
And so I received that. I received that. That fully resonates. And I also felt like, too, we learn what we see. So a lot hit with me when you talked about, how the parent would say, it's my responsibility is to feed you and clothe you, right? And
Right.
I remember
Mm-hmm.
hearing myself repeat some things. I was like, oh my God, I'm turning into my mother. Um, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt like too, like it didn't kill me. So I raised him kind of old school
Yeah.
in in
Mm-hmm.
in the rearing department, but also very much recognizing that he was a young person with his own mind. So I allowed
Yes.
him to ask a lot of questions, and and
Mm-hmm.
and, and did a lot of like scenarios, like in the department of when he was becoming a teenager, and I thought sex would be come into play, and I would say to him, I was like, now you're 12. I said, you know how much you know about sex at 12. So your friends, they know just as much as you. Don't believe that they know
Mm-hmm.
more about sex than you because y'all the same age. So if you have sex questions or things come up, know that we can have these conversations about them and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. What
Yeah.
what are some common areas or challenges that parents face when trying to be authentic, and how can they overcome them?
So, some challenges that parents face in their journey to authenticity or authentic parenting is, as mentioned previously, the living in the shadow of their own upbringing. Sometimes
Mm,
breaking free of the parenting that they received. Because as children, we receive the parenting and we think this is what it's supposed to be. And
mm-hmm,
sometimes it's not until you get out into the world. Sometimes it happens when you're a young person and you go to another home and you see in this home X is the standard, while in your home Y is the standard. And sometimes it makes you think. And so sometimes it can
mm-hmm,
begin as early as childhood. Typically, though, you're at least a young adult, you know, making your way in the world, and you understand that the way that you were raised is not the only way, and you decide that you want different. But you have to break free from the chokehold
right.
that that your that your received parenting can have on you. And then you also have instances where your friend group
Mm,
or your colleagues or the moms if you're in the PTA. So that group think mentality where some parents
mm,
sometimes when they are in a circle, it's not about empowering, it's about competition, it's about cliquishness. And
mm,
so sometimes you get caught up in my child has to do these things because these are the things that my friend group you know children are doing. So we
Mm.
have to be
Mm-hmm.
careful with our mindset and our values, knowing who we are as parents, knowing what we want for our children, understanding that it's not disrespecting your parents to say, while I love you and appreciate everything that you did for me, I am going to handle these aspects of child rearing differently. Because, I mean, what does Maya Angelou say? When you know better, you do better. That applies with parenting as well.
You do better.
And sometimes folks stay stuck in the cycle because they feel I can't disrespect. Now, they might not consciously think this, but it's like I can't
Right.
disrespect my parent by doing something differently than what they did with me. But it's not disrespecting your
Mm.
parent. It's having your own authentic parent journey. And ultimately, it's not about your parent anymore. It's about your child.
Right.
And we have to shift the focus forward. Like get out of the back and shift the focus forward. Because ultimately it's about your child. It's not about how anybody feels about what you're doing when it comes to your child rearing, except
That's a,
for safety.
absolutely. That's a big eye opener. I don't even know that I ever gave a thought about what my mother thought about my parenting or what have you. I just said, well, I lived in my own home and own finances and everything. So it never even crossed my mind if she felt some kind of way
You'd
about
be
that. That's so
surprised.
interesting. That's
But
yeah,
it's really not about independence like you think. It's emotional independence. It's not physical
absolutely.
independence,
Hmm.
because there are so many parents who have almost like a symbiotic relationship with their parent, and so they feel like they're betraying their parent if they do something with their child that their parent wouldn't approve of. And they are whole grown homeowners, taxpayers, executives, and their parent still
Mm,
has this chokehold on what they do with their children.
I could see that. I could absolutely see that. Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. Um, so that can be, it feels like to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it feels like that
Mhm.
can be very disruptive then in a family.
Oh, absolutely. It could be
And
disruptive in a family, definitely. In a marriage, in a family. I mean, you know the stereotype of like the Badinsky mother-in-law who is constantly inserting herself in what's happening with her child's family, right? People don't
mm,
take that as like an emotional barrier, but it is like that. Your parent is inserting herself in your family. You should be telling your parent, while I love you, I appreciate you, this I we have to do this over here. We're a team over here. We have to work through
right,
things over here. Now, you help that
right.
along. You help that along by not running to your parent all of the time with all of the issues and all of the needs. Because if you're running to your parent and saying, um, "Pay this bill for me," um, "I need your advice about this," then it's going to be harder for that parent to take a step back, because they're going to feel,
Hmm.
you coming to me for some sort of support, so you must still need my assistance. And sometimes it's
Gotcha.
hard to
Hmm.
have those conversations where you tell your parent, "Listen, I may still need you for X, but I got my kid." So it's the
Hmm.
the breaking of the symbiotic relationship between yourself and your parent. It's understanding that your parent did, in most instances, your parent did the best they could with what they had. Now, there are some instances where parents are
Absolutely.
abusive, and they did things that they knew consciously were inappropriate. I'm not speaking about that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
speaking about, the parents who they themselves were parented a certain way. And so it's a generation,
Right.
that's the generational curse that I was speaking about. Like it's, you know,
Okay.
and ultimately they say, it kind of goes back to slavery, where for in our culture, where we were at that time, it was dangerous for us to be seen. It was dangerous for
Mm-hmm.
us to be important. It was dangerous for us to have a voice, because if we thought
Mm-hmm.
too much of ourselves, we were not just going to be knocked down a peg, we could be hung up on a tree. And so you have parents who, from the institution of slavery, embrace
Yeah.
certain practices that now we know are psychologically damaging. 100 years ago,
Yeah.
we didn't know that. And so it's about understanding that when you know better, you do better, and you do not have to repeat the cycle that was visited upon you or your parent or your grandparent.
Absolutely. And I really just a few years ago kind of had these kind of conversations with my mother, and I'm a whole 57 years old. I
Mm-hmm.
I recognize that as she was raising us, there's three of us. I'm the oldest and I have two brothers, that she was learning too.
Mm-hmm.
One,
Yep.
she was learning too, and then I always I always felt kind of judged
Mm-hmm.
with my parenting. And not that I don't even recall that anybody really said anything, but I felt that way. And
Mm-hmm.
and I said something to her about that, and she told me to bring the receipts. And I was like, because she said, I always thought that you were a great parent. And
Mm-hmm.
it broke me down. Because I feel like I needed to hear that, because I never heard that. I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
think that she did. And and so that was beautiful to experience. And then to also fully see her,
Mm-hmm.
and not
Yep.
just see her as my mother, but
Right.
as a woman that went through her own battles and all of those
Mm-hmm.
things as well. When, and so we were talking about that being disruptive, and I'm known as the disrupt her coach. So I'm curious for you, what have you had to disrupt in your own life?
In my own life, my disruption actually began when I was 9 years old. That's when my path of disruption and my
Mm,
journey towards justice began. 9 years old, I attended a neighborhood school. The teachers in the school decided that I had outgrown the school and I needed to attend the Blue Ribbon Magnet School that's located in our city. My father, as I said, was born 1917. He had to drop out of school in middle school during the Great Depression to help save the
yeah.
house. That's just what boys
Mm-hmm.
and men did back then. And so while he was a brilliant man, learned, he knew nothing about navigating school systems, right? And so the teachers pulled him in, shared their observations, shared the application to get into J.R. Masterman Laboratory and Demonstration School here in Philadelphia. And
Mm-hmm.
my father did the paperwork. And this was in 1978. And here in Philadelphia, in 1978, it was the Rizzo era, which was a mayor that is well known nationally, and it was
Mm-hmm.
very toxic, racist environment here. And
Mm.
so we had a lot of people in positions of authority who kind of, lived under the Rizzo credo, And so when we went to apply to get into Masterman, I was first waiting list, first priority list, first waiting list, first priority list. Now, Masterman was a school that, had enrollment in the hundreds. And the way that we looked
Mm.
at it is I was one child, right? It wasn't like, the entire city was trying to, crush the gates. It was one person. And so it wasn't registering with my father that you could, deny just, one kid, a kid that all A's, only missed one day of school between kindergarten and 12th grade.
Yeah.
Always scored 99%, 100%, right? So he stormed down to the Board of Education, burst into Michael Marchese's office, who was the superintendent of the school, and said, "You're going to tell me why you're not letting my daughter in." There happens to be a black man working there in that office, and he, pled with my father, "Please, just, give me your paperwork. Let me do what I can. I don't want you to get arrested." Because at this time, my father was 60. He was 60 years old. He was a, 60-year-old
Mm-hmm.
black man bursting into a white man's office in a racist city. And so he was concerned for my dad. He said, "Give me your paperwork. Let me see what I could do.
Yeah.
And if you don't hear from me, please know that I did all I could." The next day, we got the call that I was in. Now, two things
Mm.
taught taught me from the age of 9 that in this life you have to stand up for what you deserve. But the second thing it taught me is children shouldn't have that shouldn't be. You shouldn't have to go through all of those. It shouldn't be that way. That's
Yeah.
unjust. That's unjust.
Mm-hmm.
And so from the age of 9, I had already known I was going to be a teacher when I was a child. But my passion for justice in education and parenting started from the age of 9, from my experience.
Experience. Yes. I love that. Man, you're the gifted mind, and you knew right away that you were going to teach. And here you are, teaching not only the children, but as well as the parents. I love that for you. And now that's answering the call, Coach Connie.
I listen.
That
I
is
didn't have a choice.
answering.
I didn't have a choice. It's who I am. It's like it's it's the fiber of my being. It's what runs through me. It's who I am. It's not a job. It's not a career. Like you said, it's a calling. It's my purpose. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to
Mm-hmm.
serve. I'm here to serve those babies because not every baby has a parent like my dad who was going to kick in the door, waving the full four to get what his daughter needed. He didn't let the fact that
Mm.
he was a middle school dropout, that he didn't have the answers himself, but was dependent upon support to get the answers.
Right.
He didn't let those
Right.
things, the fact that we lived in the projects, that we were poor, that we were black, he didn't let those things stop him from doing what needed to be done. Unfortunately, not all of our babies have that level of support. I can only
Yeah.
imagine, and I get so sad at the thought, if my dad hadn't done that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that I'm Albert Einstein and that, I set the world on fire, but I set my corner of the world on fire. Imagine had my dad not done that. All the lives that I would not have impacted. I may have felt unworthy, undeserving. I may have begun to act out because
Yeah.
that's what happens in schools. Children are bored, children are not educated to the level at which they need, and they begin to act out to not only express boredom, but sometimes to hide the fact they'd rather be in trouble than say I can't read. So I only imagine me, a smart person,
Right.
being in classrooms that didn't stimulate or challenge me, how I could have become someone that just fed the school to prison pipeline. So when I say that my father is my everything, like I mean
Mm-hmm.
it. I mean it.
Yeah. Well, he definitely covered you and was gonna make sure that you got everything that you deserve. That is
And with
clear.
that, and with that level of hero worship, admiration, and love that I had for him, I still made the I still made the decision that there were some aspects, as much as I love and
Mm-hmm.
revere you, he's my everything. But there were some things that I had to decide that I was going to do differently with my twins.
Yeah. I'm curious when it comes to the twins and
Mm-hmm.
your one baby, his love
Mm-hmm.
language is more, it sounds like the affirmations, right? Being affirmed. Is he the younger
Mm-hmm.
baby?
No, actually, well, let me say this. I had a cesarean. He was
Mm-hmm.
airlifted out first. If I were going to have a natural birth, my other his brother would have been first. So it
Been a
depends
been
on how
first.
you look at it.
Right, right. I'm just curious. I was actually married to a man who is an identical twin.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting when I have guests on. I don't know that I have so many similarities to my guests, but
Mm-hmm.
it makes for very good conversation for me and very interesting to find that I was like, oh my gosh, I got all of these commonalities. And my ex, he was the younger, and definitely uh, words of affirmation were his love language, and there was a level of codependency there that I could see, and I wondered if it was because he was younger. So just a curiosity on my part. No, no, no disrespect in any way
Mm-hmm.
to your son or any younger twin out there with respect to that. Just my curiosity. Um, Wow. So let's talk about generational bondage a little bit and in the context of
Mm-hmm.
parenting. What is that? What does that look like?
So to me, that looks like being held prisoner to the parenting you received, as opposed to giving your child the parenting that they deserve. So,
Mm. Ooh.
right, there's a yeah, yep. So sometimes
How
we
how do parents
say,
know?
how do parents know?
I was just I think yeah, I think out loud. I was like, wow, how do they know?
um, what is the relationship like in your household between you and your child? Is it an open relationship? Does your child trust you? Does your child come to you when they need guidance, advice, support? Uh, does your child feel as though they have a voice in your house? Do they feel like
Mm.
they can have an opinion as long as it's respectfully articulated? Um, how do you feel about your child? Do you feel like your child is an obligation, or is your child a joy?
Mm.
Um, do you look at your child as something that is holding you back from life, or
Mm.
are you able to navigate your world such that you're able to have a fully thriving adulthood while still being a parent? Or are you, stuck in the realm of parenting where you may have heard your parent complain all the time? If I ain't had these kids, I would have done X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
If I ain't had these kids, I would have done. I hear you. And the crazy thing is, we talk about generational. But I hear younger people saying that often because they became parents. And I'm not talking about the folks that became parents out of a traumatic experience. Some people become
Mm-hmm.
parents at a young age, unfortunately, because they are the victims of a traumatic, experience. I'm speaking
Right.
about individuals who have children, but they're not ready to have children. So if you're 20s, if you're like 21, 22 years old, and your heart has not been called to be a mommy yet, but you
Mm-hmm.
have a child, either out of trying to keep a relationship with someone, out of groupthink because this is what your friends are doing, or because you have been raised to feel that that is your obligation, right? Sometimes that leads to resentment. And so that
Mm-hmm.
generational opinion about parenthood is then visited upon you because you are having a child early, like your parent may have had you early. And so as you were growing up,
Mm.
all you heard were like the negatives around parenting. I would have been able to go on that trip
Right.
with but I can't because. So if
Yeah.
you are the product of a young parent who became a parent before they were ready, and all they had was like negative feelings of resentment, feeling like their life stopped because their child had to be at the center. If those are the messages that you're receiving, and then you grow up and then you have a child early, one, because you think that
Yeah.
that's what's supposed to happen because that's the generation before you and the generation before that, that's what. And trust me, I have 35-year-old grandparents at at my school, 40-year-old
Mm.
grandparents. So it's
Yeah.
the generational parenting thing is real. And so if you are a young parent and your mother was a young parent that didn't handle being a young parent the best way, it can impact
Right.
your parenting journey. And so that's what I mean
Yeah.
when I say
Mm.
generational bondage. Sometimes unconsciously, I mean subconsciously, not unconsciously, obviously, subconsciously,
Mhm.
you are influenced by the generational negativity and generational direction that you receive, and then you visit that upon your child. And so sometimes you need a
Mhm.
coach to help you understand that there is another way, that there is a different way. And you pursuing that different way does not take anything away from the love that you may have for your parent. I remember
Mm. What's
I didn't have,
mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, you're getting ready to you're probably getting ready to answer. You
Oh
on a
no, I
roll.
don't
Keep
know.
going.
I was just going to say, I remember I didn't have my twins until I was 31, which and I was a high school teacher at the time, and my students were having babies, and they would ask me all the time, Miss Green, when you gonna have a baby? And I mean, me, I was like, when I'm married. That's because that I just, I was older, but it just, I felt old. I felt old having my children at 31, and But when I had my twins, I had traveled the world. I had a career. I had interests. And so when I had my children, I had lived. And so I was in
Yeah.
the emotional space to be a parent. Sometimes, even when there's no trauma involved, sometimes when you have your children, but you haven't lived, sometimes what you feel may not be as strong as resentment, but you may feel a little bit of, oh, I wish I would have. That's it's okay. But the when
Hmm.
it turns to resentment is when it's, but it's
Right.
natural. If you have children at an early age, it's natural for you to sometimes feel like you are missing out. It's how you handle it that a coach can help,
Yeah.
guide you through. Okay, so you have a 3-year-old. You cannot pack up at this stage,
Yeah.
or let's say you're breastfeeding. You can't pack up and take a trip with your homies for 2 weeks. You're breastfeeding. And you have
Mm.
a baby. They need that bond, and they're not going to be able to, make it with. What are you going to do? What's the plan? How are you going to be able to have your fully functioning adult life, which should include joy, because that's another trap that we fall into as parents. Parenting should
Right.
not be drudgery. You should not, it should not feel like all I do is work, 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 like Rihanna, work, 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 work. That's not, parenting should not feel like drudgery. It should be joyful, right? But that means you have to know who you are as a person, and you have to be able to fulfill yourself so that you have the love that your child deserves. You have the space to give it because you're feeding yourself. But sometimes we're brought up to think that parenting is only about sacrifice. And then you do get
Yeah.
to the space of
Real talk.
begrudging. And so a
Real talk.
coach can help you to understand that it's actually healthy for you to have your own life. It's actually healthy for you to know the things that you need to do in order to maintain your mental health and your emotional health, because that is what's going to allow you to give your best to your child.
Speaking of coaching, what does that journey look like for helping someone break the generational curse or bondage and then raise empowered adults? Do you have a success story you could share with us, or a journey of one of your coachees?
So, one of the families that I have worked with, they were struggling in the area of how should I say this? In our culture, in the I'll say in African American culture, we take children having an opinion as talking back, right? Talking back,
Disrespect,
being
yes.
fresh, disrespectful, right? And so they were having issues, what they considered to be issues with their children, because as they were looking at it, their children were talking back. Through working with them, they began to see that there's a difference between being disrespectful and having an opinion. There's a difference between being fresh mouth and sassy, or whatever the word is you want to use. There's a difference between those things and having an opinion. And the difference comes in the delivery. And so I work with
Hmm.
my family to focus on the delivery. Work with your children on the delivery. because you should never be trying to stifle the message. It's the
Mm.
delivery that needs to be worked on. Because if they don't know, they don't know. You are the person responsible as their parent for helping them to figure it out. So never try to stifle the message. Just help them to see the parameters in which the message is delivered. Like I would never accept my my child coming up to me and saying, F you. You were supposed to do X and you didn't do it. You let me down, you B. Are you
Right.
serious? I listen. No, no, no. So, how does your child express their disappointment, their displeasure, right? You teach them. You
Mm-hmm.
have to teach them how. We, as parents, we have to remember that our children will learn. They will either learn the right way or the wrong way, but they will learn.
Woo!
And if you are not intentional, if you are not intentional about what it is you feel is in their best interest, listen, children run to the streets when they feel like they don't have what they need in their home. They're going to learn one way or the other. You want them
Yeah.
to be able to communicate with you. You want them to feel as if you're open to listening to them, but they also have to be mindful of how they talk when they are sharing their message. Being
Mm-hmm.
an authentic parent doesn't mean you give your child license to disrespect you. But by the same token, it also means that you can't call them disrespectful because they don't agree with you. It's not about the
Right.
message, it's about the delivery.
Do you have some effective strategies for communications you could share with the families?
One thing I will say first and foremost, get over yourself when it comes to apologizing. So many parents have this wall up that they can't say, I'm sorry to their children, even when they know they messed up.
Yeah.
And that was a learning for me. I didn't come out the womb understanding that. And especially me being my age, I grew up at a
Yeah.
time where ain't no adults apologizing to no kids for nothing. I don't care what it was. I'm not apologizing. I mean, that's how I was brought up. That's how old I am. That's how I was brought up. But when you know better, you do better. So I understand now that I am a human being. I'm not a machine. I'm not a robot. There will be times when I make a mistake, when I respond in a way that is not the healthiest, is reactive and not responsive. There's a difference.
Mm.
Sometimes I may react. I have to circle back. I have to go back and say, I apologize for reacting the way that I did. Your news disturbed me. I was stressed about XYZ and I should not have taken it out on you. Whatever it is, you have to assume the role of the adult and own your stuff. So many parents don't own their stuff. And you could go so much further with your children if you just humbled yourself and just said, like, I'm sorry, but really mean
Yeah.
it. And the way you show you mean it is by working to actively reduce how often that stuff occurs. Because nobody wants to hear I'm sorry 80 times with you doing the same thing, right? But
Mm-hmm.
when you have to apologize. I get so upset when parents look at children as if, Like, you're not paying any bills. So your thoughts, feelings, and opinions don't matter. How you feel about how I
Mm.
treat you doesn't matter because you're just a kid.
Ooh,
I don't like that. And so
yeah,
one of the first strategies that I would share would be to be mindful that as adults we make mistakes too. And the fastest way to build trust
yeah.
and respect with your child is to own your stuff. That's strategy number one. Own your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Strategy number two, be consistent. Be consistent. A yes today can't
I'm
be a
taking.
no tomorrow,
Oh
right?
yeah, I'm taking notes.
So like
Mm-hmm.
when my children were younger, right? My my former husband, he was a gamer, and my children, they, from the age of like 3, 4 years old, they were playing Sesame Street and Tom and Jerry, like video games. So they love playing video games. I put a structure in place, being miseducator. So there was no video games during the week. Friday after homework was done
Yeah.
until Sunday at dinner time. If we weren't
Mm-hmm.
doing anything else, if we didn't have any obligations, we weren't out in the streets, family, movies, whatever, and you had completed your chores and your homework, I didn't care if you played video games with the time that you had. Sunday at dinner time, games went away. That's it. So that means
Right.
that's what it is. And because I was consistent with that, there was no back and forth. There was no asking. There was no pleading. There was none of the things, because the discomfort with the initial framing of the boundary, you have to stand firm in that discomfort until they get comfortable with the boundary. And so
Yeah.
the boundary has to be one that makes sense. It has to make sense. Now, I don't just arbitrarily say you can't play video games because your name ends in E, right? It has to be, the boundary is for a reason, right? You need your rest. You need your time. When you come home from school, your time is to be focused, on your studies, reading, resting, relaxing. No video games. Save the
Mm-hmm.
video game for the time where it's your time. But that's my household. That was my household. That was my boundary. But you have to be consistent. So number two, after number one, owning your stuff, humbling yourself. Number two is being consistent, right? Number three, being an active listener. Being an active listener,
Mm.
which is different than just hearing. There's a difference between hearing something and listening to it. Hearing it means it's happening. It could be background noise. I hear a slight hum from the lights. I'm not listening to it. I'm not paying
Mm-hmm.
attention. I'm not trying to think, well, what is the message? What's the message behind the message? What's really happening with the hum of the lights? No, I just hear that. We have to
Right.
actively listen to our children, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
feel like being consistent, being an active listener, owning your stuff, those three strategies right there, and those are something that don't cost a dime.
Right.
Those
Maybe a
three,
little
yeah,
pride or ego.
right, yes. Yeah, maybe a little bit of humble pie, but that may depend on how far you've gone off the rails. So, yeah, but doesn't cost a thing, but can have such a great, those three things can have such a great impact, a positive impact on your household. on your parenting, on your
I
child
love
rearing.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So those are some great tips. Own your stuff, be consistent, and be an active listener. I want to switch it up a little bit and talk. Let's get a little personal so
Mhm.
folks can get to know you. Um, what? Let me see. I like to know outside of coaching and the parenting, what are some of your favorite hobbies? What do you do? What do you do to bring you joy?
Uh, I love to travel. Um, I've been ugh, I can't even. I've been to 3 countries in Africa. I've been to Europe. I've been to the islands. Um, yeah, I love to travel because I'm a geek, so I love to learn about cultures in person. Um, so traveling is something, but traveling is not something that I can do every day. My everyday joy would be reading, would be music. I love all kinds of music. I love performing music. I sing, so I love
Mm.
performing, but I also love listening. Um, reading.
So
In fact,
I got the reading.
a book that a book that I would recommend is one that
Mm-hmm.
was recommended by one of our coaches in our group. It's amazing. This book is amazing. It's called Power Moves. I'm pulling it up so I can see the whole
Oh
title.
yeah,
Power Moves.
by Sarah.
Ignite
Sarah. Mm-hmm.
ignite ignite your confidence and become a I'm trying to see the whole title, but it's by Sarah Jake Roberts and it's called Power
Mm-hmm.
Moves. This book
What was what
is
was one of
so
what was one of the
good.
takeaways for you?
One of the takeaways is probably a message that we've received in other spaces,
Mm.
but your time is not always God's time. And
Mm.
so when something doesn't when something doesn't go the way that you feel that it should go, it's not always a rejection of you. It may not have
Mm.
been the right time, but what is the lesson? And
Right.
what I like about Miss Roberts' book is that she'll share a chapter, which is like a personal vignette about her life around a certain area, and at the end of each chapter, there is a spiritual action, like a prayer, a spiritual action, but then there's
Mm-hmm.
also a take action. So I like that
Mm.
about book. It's really good.
I love that. I love it.
So yes,
Well, that was a
reading.
great. I love that. That's a great segue because
Mhm.
I like to ask what books in your life would you recommend or change your life that had an impact on you? Are there any others?
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be a book.
In
It could be a
terms of me,
podcast,
so
resource.
in terms of who I am in all of the iterations of me, I feel like the book that's had a lot of impact, A People's History of the United States, because
Ooh.
there's a saying that history is told by the victors, and so
Mm.
sometimes we don't know the stories of the folks who you know who were conquered, so to speak. So
Mm-hmm.
that book, and that was a book that was introduced to me in like freshman, sophomore year in college. But that book is kind of the book that really turned on my fire around around justice. Um,
I love it.
trying to think.
Who's the
I
author?
just I have Howard Zinn, Zinn,
That's good.
and
I'm definitely gonna listen to that one.
the book that I would recommend to folks that are on a journey, any type of journey, whether it's parenting journey or some sort of self actualization journey. The Year of Yes
Mm-hmm.
by Shonda Rhimes.
Mm-hmm.
I've
Yep.
read and reread
Familiar.
That book really, that book really helped me when I was in a transformation phase.
Mm. I have an exercise around saying yes and saying no for my
Mhm,
for my my clients to get them in a
mhm,
posture of receiving because they're really good at giving, but not good at
mhm,
receiving. I
mhm,
like that. Yeah, that I listened to that book years ago. I'm a listener. I like audiobooks.
mhm,
So it's hard for me to sit still long enough to read. I haven't gotten back to that season. I used to read, but
mhm.
definitely I learn more through listening, or should I say hearing. I mean, I'm doing both. Fantastic.
Listening, listening.
Yes. So what's one surprising thing about you most people don't know?
I would be on this podcast all day answering that, but I'll keep this short. Um,
Okay.
most people don't know that I am also a children's book author. I have a children's book that is available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and other outlets. It's called Khadijah the Rebel.
Ah.
It's a story of a young lady who, well, I should say, a young child, 5 years old, kindergartner, whose best friend's
Mm-hmm.
mother is incarcerated, and the best friend is
Mm.
nervous because this weekend is time for her to take the ride to go see her mother, and she's worried that she's not going to be able to go. And so the book kind of introduces
Mm.
children not only to the impact that the criminal justice system has on families and communities, but also on protests. And I don't want to give away the whole
Mm.
story, but yes.
Right.
So
Yeah,
I am
y'all got to go
a
get the
children.
book.
Yes.
Now, is it under your name or do you have a pen name? Is it
Nope.
under
It's under
Connie
Connie.
Greer?
It's under Connie Greer.
Okay.
Yeah. Hmm.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Let's see. I might have one more question. Can you share a personal story? I know you can. Would you share a personal story of a significant challenge you faced as a parent and how you overcame it?
Yes. Um, as you could tell, I am an academic. Like I was a smart kid who became a teacher. And when I had my children, that's just, that was just the course that, I felt that they would follow. And they happened to follow it. One day we were, riding in the car. We're having conversations about colleges, and they said, "I don't want to go to college here. It's not good enough for us." That was them. Okay, well, that your dad and I can't afford to, send you to a prestigious college, so you have to earn your spot, right? So we became there's a program called Teen Sharp. I recommend that program to any parents of minority children who have goals and aspirations that they themselves want to go to like an Ivy League college or a top tier college.
Mm-hmm.
Not about what we want, but if they want to, I would recommend enrolling them in that program. So we were in Teen Shark.
And
The boys had. I'm sorry. Wait, did you say something?
I just wanted to clarify. Are you saying
Mm-mm.
shark like Shark Tank? Teen Shark? How do you spell that?
Sharp, sharp. SHARP.
P. Okay. Awesome.
And
Okay.
so they had made the decision. They wanted to go to a top tier school. And so they
Yeah.
were in the program, they were doing the work, and we had a like a kind of like a parent teacher conference with one of the founders, and she was saying that the robot, he could be doing better. He was, doing okay, but he could be
Uh,
doing better. And so he says to me, well, I'm getting A's and B's at school. Well, why, why you want me to? It's like, you said that you wanted to. So you already know we cannot afford to send both of you to a, top tier college. You said that you wanted to. So he says something smart. And we're on a campus, we're on Rutgers campus. We're sitting out in the community, the all-purpose area on Rutgers campus. And he said something smart to me. And I reached out to grab his arm, and he was so skinny. He slid his arm through the jacket. I was holding jacket. He had leapt up. I leapt up after him. I chased him around the common area because I was going to. Tatiana came out and stood in between us, and he was going crazy, and I was going crazy. So on the ride home, I said to him, I sent I sent emotional twin in the house. And I said to the robot, listen, you said that you wanted this. If you don't want this, it's okay, but you have to name it so that we could go to plan B for you. But I'm not going to be driving myself crazy trying to get you to do something that you said that you wanted because you have your eyes on the prize. And
right.
so he came back to me and he said I understand that what you want is for my own good. So I'm going to, I'm in it. He
Mm.
took off. Like
Yeah.
giving
I
him
love
that
that.
agency after we had our moment, after
Yeah.
we had our Tom and Jerry moment,
Yeah, that's
putting it
exactly.
in his hands, right? Right. Yes, Tom and Jerry. We were Tom and Jerry up in there, right? Because I was going to get that. I was so
I
angry,
know that's right.
but
That black
but
mama in you came out.
but that's what I'm saying. We're not perfect. We're human. We have to own our stuff though. So that's why I said on the ride home, after we got home, I sent his twin in the house. I turned and had the conversation with him. And I said, listen,
Yeah.
you said that this is what you wanted. If it's not what you want, you have to say that so that I can, I know that I don't support you in that way. And so he came back and said, no, I know that what you did and what you need is really what I need because it's what I said I wanted. After that, it's like a snap. It's like a light. I swear. After that, that boy is now he's in Illinois pursuing his doctorate and is a college. He's a professor. He's teaching Psych 101. The boy that I had to chase like Tom and Jerry that one time, just putting it back on him and saying, what is it that
Absolutely.
you want to do? Because don't listen, you ain't gonna drive me crazy. Don't waste my time.
Absolutely.
You said you wanted it. What we doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm about that
Him.
life. I held my son accountable for many
Right.
things
What are we
because
doing?
yeah, I love this. I love this. I'm super excited because I realized I did a lot of things. When I was raising my son, it was all intuition because I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't even think I was going to be somebody's mama because I didn't want kids, but the Lord had other plans. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that pops in my head around parenting is that we learn what we see, and and
Mm-hmm.
and I was grateful enough that on my journey that there were so many signs and nuggets that came in my path that I received because
Mm-hmm.
it was all intuition. It was like the Lord had his hand on it the whole time. Even him being born, because I was on my way to get an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And I called a girlfriend to go with me, and I had just went with her a few months before, so I just knew she was going to return the favor after I had made the decision.
Right.
And I was in a difficult spot because my husband had died. I was right right before my 24th birthday. He died
No, I'm
of
sorry to hear
an
that.
asthma attack.
Mm.
And in my grief, I got pregnant. And I got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to get pregnant when he died, and it didn't happen. And then I get pregnant by a boy that I'm just
Right.
being with out of my grief. And so
Right.
it's like, my God. So I had decided, okay, I can't do this alone. I'm done. I'm not doing it. And then when my girlfriend put her grandmother on the phone, and her grandmother said to me, baby, when the Lord give you something, it's a blessing. You can't be throwing your blessings away. What you say? So that stopped me in my tracks. And
Mm-hmm.
and there were some other things at play that made me realize, okay, I'd rather have the choice than no choice. And I was
Mm-hmm.
I was financially capable. I don't know if I was mentally capable, but when I finally decided and I shared with my in-laws and my mother, they were all for it. They're
Mm-hmm.
just like, and my mother gave me the charge to really accept the responsibility. And I spoke with God, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
do my best. That's all I can do. Do my best. And I just wore it like a badge of honor. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole in that too, because I've had a journey in that space. But I'm just so grateful that I didn't mess him up. Uh, he turned out and has become the most beautiful person on the inside and out, and I'm just grateful for that.
Amen.
I I really, really, really appreciate you sharing your time and the space with me. And I know that people are going to be served. Where can they find you? How tell us all about you. Where can folks find you? How can they get in touch with you?
So they can get in touch with me, Coach Coach C Coach C at justshift.org. If they want to send me a direct email, I'm going to let's see. And then also you can find me on Instagram at Coach C underscore just shift.
And we're going to drop it all in the
On Facebook.
captions too of this live.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Awesome. Awesome.
Instagram. And on Facebook, you could join my I'm sorry, not Facebook. YouTube. Join my parenting
Oops.
community entitled Parenthood, which
Parenthood.
is like a
Oh,
play parenting and attitude, right? Parenthood, yes. What is your
I
parenthood?
love that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And is the community on YouTube, or is it in a another private space? I mean, not YouTube. What is it? Facebook. Is that on Facebook?
No, it's YouTube. I misspoke. It's YouTube.
Okay, got you. I love that. I love that. And we got a children's book. So all of the resources that Coach Connie has shared with us, or Coach C has shared with us, will also be in the caption of this live. When you catch the replay, it'll be there for you. She's also activated you to drop in her DMs or messages on Instagram and Facebook. And anything else, Coach Connie, you want to share that we have not talked about today?
No, man, I think we kind of talked about an awful lot. I enjoyed my time with you, the disruptor coach. I appreciate you having me on and giving me an opportunity to share some important messages around how we navigate this world with our children is so very important. So thank you for giving me the space to share some things that are on my heart and some strategies that could be of support to parents who may be finding it a bit difficult to navigate those parental waters. I'm Coach C of Just Shift, and I'm here to support or assist parents who are struggling with stress in their parenting journey and support them on their journey to parental peace. So anything that I could do to assist in that, I'm here for you.
Absolutely. Get at her. I appreciate you coming and taking up all the space. You just shifted the atmosphere in this space. I am so excited to watch your journey and hear about all the lives that you're changing, especially when it comes to parenting and breaking those generational bondages. Before we go, I like to ask all of my guests, do you have any
Mhm.
questions for me?
Hmm. um, when you say disrupt her and you say your your walk of support is Christian women who are breaking free of narcissistic relationships. What about the Christian woman who may need your services but doesn't understand that what they have to break free from is narcissism? Have you helped folks to actually identify the narcissism so that they could then be open to receiving your support?
Absolutely. I have a narcissistic relationship quiz, and
Okay.
you can find lots of information on my Instagram, my Facebook, all of the places where you see me. And if you don't feel like yourself, if you don't like who you are in a relationship, if you don't know who you are in the relationship, it doesn't matter whether it's narcissism or not. I help you know your power and your divine essence, regardless of what you've been through. It could be any trauma. That's what I specialize in, but I help
Okay.
all women. And predominantly with the narcissism and the Christian women is because that's my lived experience, and what I
Mhm.
had been through. So I'm uniquely qualified to be able to help those sisters. And what I see in the religious sector around narcissism is those are the women that are held in bondage the most. And I don't like bullshit. And
Okay.
that's who I've been called to serve. And I'm
Okay.
gonna I'm gonna do that. I get so fired up. I don't go live a lot because I'm a cusser, and I'm still I'm just being honest, because I get fired up about this. I am
I
creating
know
a
that's
safe
right.
safe space and community for us because I don't like bullies. And narcissists are predators. They prey on
Yes.
predominantly Christian women, not just Christian women, but predominantly because of the male patriarchal religious Western culture that we have. And everybody ain't ready for that conversation. I know, ladies, that
Right.
you don't have a safe space to have these conversations, but I'm creating one. It's called the Village Healing Circle. It'll be dropping real soon for you to get off of social media and be able to have these conversations that you need to have to break free. And the other thing is, I don't like talking about the damn narcissist all the time because it's not about the narcissist. They done
Right. Just
already
give
took
them
up
the
enough
attention.
energy and
Right.
space
Yes.
and that they
Yes.
want. Exactly. So I know that I have a different conversation in this space. And in order to be able to do that, I also had to work on my energy, strength, and capacity to be able to show up because I'm still living through a lot of the damage that was done in that. And not only was it done in my marriage, after I got divorced, I went to work for somebody with the same energy. So
Mm.
it can be any relationship. That's why I say narcissistic relationships. So some of it
Mm.
is me just getting clear around what that looks like. But if you know I'm talking to you and you feel me and maybe you don't think it's narcissism or what have you, you still reach out to me.
Yes.
Book that connection call with me because I'm here for you. Hopefully I answered that because I get fired up.
No, you absolutely did. And kind of why I asked. So,
Hmm.
yes.
Ashe, Ashe, I receive that. And this is why I appreciate these coaching conversations, right? Iron sharpens iron. I wanted to be of service, and I know that I'm not fully showing up in a way where I can show up and have this conversation with them every day, right? On social media. That's just not my jam. But one of my strengths and
Mhm.
one of my gifts is being a connector. And I love having conversations. So I was like, okay, Lord, this feels right. Let's have coaching conversations with the other coaches so that they can share their messages and I can still serve at the same time as well. So thank you for being in this space. Thank you all to the listening audience out there. Get at Coach Connie. Get that beautiful
Hey.
book. Yes, we appreciate you. Continue to drop your questions. If you have questions on this live, if you catch the replay, let us know you caught the replay. Any questions, we're going to continue to answer them, even once we're done and weeks on down the line. So thank you. That's our time. We appreciate you. I hope you have an amazing, blessed week. Thank you. Anything else, Coach Connie, you want to share?
No, ma'am.
All
No,
right.
ma'am. I'm
That's
good.
our time. We are out of here. Thank you.